Perfect. Hey, everybody. Give us just a minute. We are loading our interpreters in. We will get started in just a second. Okay. So we've got Amanda ready to go. Perfect. Let me get our screen share going. I'm so excited that y'all are here for what is this? Our fifth? It's our fifth webinar, right, Amanda?
It is.
Oops. Okay, y'all. Give me a minute. Here we go. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Amanda, I think you're going to do our welcome for us, right?
Sure. Yep. I think we can kick it off. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited that you all are here and have chosen to spend your afternoon with us. My name is Amanda Noyes. I am the K-12 Arts Education Coordinator and the Accessibility Coordinator for the South Carolina Arts Commission. And I am just so thrilled that you all are here to learn more about website and document accessibility. This is going to be such a great session hosted with Sara Massengale and Mary Reeves from Able South Carolina. I'd love to share just a little bit about our relationship with Able and the Arts Commission. So we have a partnership with Able South Carolina that's launched kind of in around the end of 2022 when we created an arts grant category called Arts for All SC, which is a grant category meant to help arts organizations better identify and then address potential barriers within their organizations that may be unintentionally excluding patrons with disabilities. So this grant is intended to help those organizations identify and then address with those grant funds. And our partners at Able South Carolina have been able to provide technical assistance and support throughout this process that these organizations have partaken in this grant opportunity. We are in our second round of Arts for All, so we're so excited about welcoming new organizations into this grant program. But through this grant, we've been able to partner with Able to provide additional technical assistance to arts organizations, including different assessments and professional development opportunities. So it's just been a really wonderful partnership that's grown over the last year or so, or a couple of years, I guess now. And so we are excited to launch this fifth webinar of our series. And I will go ahead and hand it over to Mary and Sara to get us going.
Thanks, Amanda. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce myself, and then I'm gonna kick it off to Sara, who's gonna head things up for us for the first little bit. I think that I have met many of you and had an opportunity to work closely with you. I see there are a lot of folks in our webinar today, and I'm really excited about that. I'm Mary Reeves. I'm the Director of Community Access here. Sara. Sara, did we lose you?
Sorry, just a quick technical difficulty. Give me just a second. Okay, sorry about that. Screen readers are screen readers, and sometimes they get glitchy. So I am Sara Massengale. To give you a quick visual description, I am a white woman who is totally blind, and I have currently very blonde hair with some blue streaks that were originally intended to be green. That's a kind of a funny story. And I work as a community access specialist with Able South Carolina. And primarily what I do is to take the lead on our digital accessibility initiatives, training, and accessibility testing. And what we're going to do today is just walk through some of the basics of primarily document accessibility, though some of this does also carry over into the website accessibility world. So Mary, if you want to move to the mission and vision slide. So I will.
Do you want to do housekeeping real
Oh,
quick,
yes,
Sarah?
yes. Okay, so a couple of housekeeping things. You did hear me mention that screen readers are glitchy, which I am a screen reader user. I am totally blind. So what that's going to mean is that you've noticed that we don't have as much functionality going on with the chat. So that is so that my screen reader, as I'm reading through and working through the PowerPoint that I am sharing with y'all, does not get interrupted and start reading chat messages instead of the PowerPoint that I need it to read. A couple of other things that's going to mean, so I, of course, am not seeing your body language. I'm not getting that visual feedback. So periodically, I might do a check-in with you to just kind of get a feel for where you are, how you're feeling, because this is a lot of information that we're going to go through very fast. So just to kind of, get some verbal feedback. Okay, we're good. No, Sarah, we need you to slow down, just those sorts of things. And then the other thing, I run a very informal run of show. So if, as we're going through things, you would like to come off mute and ask a question, or periodically I might ask Mary to take a look at the Q&A and talk about and look at the questions that are available. And we might take some of those questions as we're going through. And then the other piece of that is if you want to pull up a Word document or PowerPoint or something as we're going through this to work on the things that we're talking about, that is also awesome, and learning as you're doing. And we'll give you a chance to kind of ask questions related to that if you'd like as you're working through. And that's the whole rationale behind the practical approach. So this is going to be divided kind of into two sections. The first section is going to be kind of some facilitated lecture and just talking through. And the second section will be, we will put some documents up on the screen and we will work through with you how to make those accessible. Okay, so talking about Able's mission and vision, I'm not going to read all of that through to you, but something to really kind of drive home is that we are not just an organization that has learned expertise. We are an organization that is over 85% of our staff have disabilities. So we are coming at this from both a learned and a lived experience perspective. As far as my accessibility work, I've been working with screen readers doing these things for many years. And so this is end user experience for me as well. I'm going to stop briefly and say that I'm hearing some background noise. So if someone is not muted, can I gently ask you to mute yourself?
There, I just took care of that. I was giving everyone permission to talk in case you do have a question, folks, since we have a webinar style. So hopefully I've taken care of that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mary.
Yep.
All right. So let's get into the meat of this. So what are we hoping that you come away with from this training? So recognizing the benefit of creating accessible documents across platforms, implementing some of the elements of accessible document structure, discuss some of the most common types of content and content formats, and whether or not they are or aren't accessible. Excuse me just a second, letting the screen reader read here. And then learning why starting with an accessible document matters. And this is one of those that if you take away nothing from this presentation, really, this is the big takeaway that we want you to leave with is why do you start with a document that's accessible rather than having to remediate?
After we do our show and tell, I think you'll definitely go,
You'll
okay.
understand, we promise.
Okay.
We promise. So why accessibility is the first thing that we want to talk through. So when we think about accessibility, why do we need it? Bear with me. So 1 in 4 Americans has a disability. And then disability represents the largest marginalized community because disability intersects across a variety of populations. You can belong to any race, any ethnicity, and still be, disabled. 1 in 3 South Carolinians has a disability. So inevitably, in your arts organizations, you are very likely to have a staff member, a patron, a concert or performance or, visual arts exhibition attendee who has a disability. And so being very mindful of that as you think about, well, why does this matter? Why do I need to worry about making these things accessible? And then other things about why we need it. So bear with me just a second. It's also the law. So Section 508 of the Rehab Act and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. The ADA, which there is the new final rule from the Department of Justice that is coming for web accessibility for entities that receive federal funding. So that's going to be, very important going forward. And so just really remembering that not only is it the law, but it's also just the right thing to do. And then what is digital accessibility? So when we say this word, what do we actually mean? And it's all of the different considerations that when you bring them together, make websites, applications, whether mobile or desktop, documents, presentations, etc., fully accessible and usable to everyone, including people with disabilities. Digital accessibility, who is affected? So this is actually interesting because it goes deeper than you think. So people with visual and hearing disabilities, I feel like, are often the most obvious to us, but also people with cognitive disabilities, people with physical disabilities. So sometimes you don't have use of your hands in such a way that you can use a mouse, or you need to have alternative keyboard layouts, things like that. And so how something is designed or coded can affect your ability to use those things. Also people with speech disabilities, for instance, can they have things that are understandable if speech responses are required? Do they have an alternative way to input data? And then also non-disabled people. So this gets interesting because think about if you have slow internet connectivity. Well, sometimes if there is a text description of an image that is on the website, that will load before the rest of the website might load so that you can see the images on the website. Or if you have some of your accessibility tools implemented correctly on your website, you may be higher on Google search results than people who don't have those accessibility features implemented. So that makes you easier to find. So non-disabled people are affected as well. And then let's talk about assistive technology and that term, what it means. There are two terms that sometimes get used interchangeably, and I want to make sure that we know the difference between these two. There's assistive technology, and then particularly for blind folks or folks with other visual disabilities, there is the term access technology. So assistive technology and access technology are similar, but there's a slight difference. Assistive technology is any sort of device. It can be anything from a white cane or a wheelchair, even a guide dog, to a screen reader. It's basically any sort of tech, whether high tech, low tech, etc., that enables equity for people with disabilities. Access technology in the blind community is very specific. It is refers to screen readers, screen magnifiers, braille displays, things like that, that they don't so much facilitate assistance, but they facilitate access to content that already exists. And so that's the difference there. But really, for the purposes of thinking about arts organizations and what you're going to do and the content you're going to create, assistive technology is the common practice term, and it's the term you're going to hear the most often. So common assistive technology you might encounter in digital spaces. So various sundry types of headsets, or what we call eye gaze or eye tracking technology, alternative keyboard layouts with switches, other types of controls, screen readers, which will not necessarily be visible to you, but if someone tells you, for instance, that they use a screen reader, refreshable braille displays, screen magnification technology, anything that's going to be used to access the internet for people with disabilities is going to fall into that assistive technology category. And so we're going to move on to accessible versus inaccessible formats. And so what we have here is a table that works us through some of the most common formats and kind of what their pros and cons are. All right, so let's talk about screenshots of flyers and other content. So oftentimes, many of us do this. We'll take a screenshot of our event poster, we'll toss it in an email, we'll email it out to our contacts. Unfortunately, that's going to be inaccessible because a screen reader is not going to pick that up unless it has something called alternative text, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But what you will learn is that the best practice for alternative text actually doesn't really encourage us to create alternative text that's long enough to explain the full content of a flyer. So that's not really, creating that screenshot is not really the most accessible alternative. So Microsoft, sorry, go ahead. Did I hear a question?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So okay. Microsoft files, Word or PowerPoint. So these are documents or presentations exclusively created in Microsoft products. Let's add spreadsheets here. And you notice that it says accessible if designed correctly. And we will talk about what that means. But if you are doing basically just a document that contains exclusively text, you might not have to do anything to it to make it accessible. But if you are making a document that is really visually appealing, which, we're creative people, right? We should be making our documents visually appealing. Then there are some things that we want to be mindful of to make sure that we're creating the most accessible documents possible. So HTML web pages. Similar. So pages on a website or other web-based content. And you notice again, it says accessible if designed correctly. And that will go into some of the same conventions as making your documents accessible. And we will talk a little bit about that. So, and then PDFs. What can I say about PDFs? So you notice it says inaccessible without significant time for design, or I will add, or if built properly in Microsoft Word or Canva. It makes me so excited to say that. Y'all will learn why later. Or Canva beforehand. And I think by the end of this, you will understand why that is my response to PDFs. So, all right. Very, very briefly, let's touch on the concept of plain language. Plain language is a way of writing. I've also heard this called recently user experience language, which I really like. It's a way of writing that makes your content basically more accessible to everyone, particularly to folks with cognitive disabilities. Folks with autism oftentimes tend to prefer plain language. And really, when you're writing for a more accessible reading level, so a reading level that everyone can comprehend, plain language is always a good thing to strive for. And the way that I often explain plain language is that it involves writing more like you speak. Many of us like words. I like words. And it's a very, good thing, perhaps on academic websites, scientific websites, to use that more academic wordy language. But when we want to really tailor our messaging to our audience, being very mindful of who we're speaking to and of how those folks communicate. All right, so making your content accessible. So before we even go here, Mary, shall we do our poll?
Let's do it. All right, y'all. Testing this out. I just launched a poll. I hope y'all can see it.
We'll give you a minute to respond to the poll.
Yes, they can see it. The answers are coming in, Sara.
Yes. Yeah, we're very proud of ourselves for this poll. We got fancy for this webinar, and we're very excited about it.
So Sara and I were thinking about, again, how do we bring you very practical information? How do we really help you figure out how to continue to communicate the beautiful, wonderful things that your programs do? We are talking with arts programs after all, right? And so how do we help? Because this has sort of been an area of learning for me. Is I'm a very visual person. I'm a kinesthetic learner. I think fast, I move fast, I do fast, I talk fast. And when Sara and I have been talking about, when I've been learning to use a screen reader, how do we figure out how to convey the information? Because Sara and I, for example, our brains process information very differently. We process content very differently. And so how do we teach sighted folks how to make something that is pretty, that is accessible, and that is as easily navigable through a document, through a flyer, through a whatever, for a person who's using a screen reader or who is low vision, as it is for those of us who rely heavily on our site to navigate through something. So the first thing we wanted to do is figure out, what's the first thing you look for? And Sara, so here's an accessibility question. Sara, do you have access to this poll?
I
As a panelist?
do.
Are the answers accessible to you? The responses?
They are.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, well, do you want
Oh
to
yeah,
read
I
them out
love
to us?
Zoom polls. Say that again, Mary?
Do you want to read them out? Tell everybody what we got?
So I don't have the percentages. I think only you as the host have the percentages.
Got it. Okay. So what is the first thing you notice when opening a web page, document, or app? 30% of folks said title and headings or headers. And in the terminology we're going to show you, it's headings. But I think a lot of us maybe will walk through and go, oh, we got those headers. You know, I'm looking through like, what is the bolded part? What am I flipping through? So 30%, 7 out of the 23 folks said titles, headings. 65% of our respondents, so 15 out of 23 said images.
Ha.
And that's me, y'all. I roll right on through and I'm like, what am I looking at? What have you got for me? I want to see, do I even want to be here? Do you have pretty images? Do you have happy things? Are you speaking to me? That's what I look for. 4% said links
Mm-hmm.
and nobody said logos.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
y'all
I want y'all to
basically
keep this in
confirmed-
mind. Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
I was going to say, y'all basically confirmed what we thought we knew.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yep.
finish your thought, my friend.
No, it's just going to say, oh, I can share results. Look there. I don't know where those went. I don't know where they went, but I'm sharing them. So what I think, you know, when we're walking through this doc in a little while, when we're doing it together, I want you to keep this in mind when you're thinking about what is an image that I make decorative, or is it essential? How do I determine what are my titles and my headings? Because what you notice first, and what, you know, the majority of the folks that are here have noticed first, is how we're going to keep in mind how we label things and how we build in those accessibility elements. Okay.
And the other side of that as we go forward is remembering that what you notice first may be slightly different than what a screen reader user would notice first. And so that'll come into play as we remediate some documents a little bit. All right. So the most important thing we can teach you: design with accessibility in mind. So basically what I am getting at with that, and again, you will see, is it might take you a half an hour to build an accessible Word document from the ground up. Now it will take you longer depending on the length of the document, but it might take you 10 hours to remediate that same document if it's not built accessibly and exported as a PDF.
Sarah, I'm very exaggeratedly nodding my head, and you might cry also. You might see me cry in a little while when I'm going to try to make this PDF accessible for you, because PDF is just, Adobe is just not friendly.
Oh, we should also say we are not responsible for any language that comes out of our mouth during the document remediation session.
We'll behave today.
We will behave. We will not actually swear violently.
All right, I'm moving us to accessible images, Sarah.
All right. So, accessible images. And let's talk about this because this is a big one. All right. So, alt text, alternative text is what that is the short form of, and it is a text description of any image in a document or on a website. In the case of a document, it's embedded into your image so that only a screen reader user picks it up. Same with the website, it's in the code. There's this lovely HTML attribute called alt that we use to embed it into the code so that no one who isn't using a screen reader can see it. In contrast to that, we have image descriptions. Image descriptions are visible to everybody. They are also a text description of the image, and they are considerably longer typically, unless you're one of those rare people who writes novel length alt text, and we'll talk about how we should probably rethink that in a little bit. All right. Automatically generated alt text. So let's talk about this. I feel like all of us may have gone on Facebook or Instagram or into Microsoft Word or PowerPoint and said, oh, there's this button. It can generate the alt text for this picture for me. Yes, it can generate that alt text for you, but it's not always a good idea. And let's talk about why. So example of automatically generated alt text. If I remember this slide correctly, hold on, please. Okay, yes. So this is a picture of the Mona Lisa. I think all of us as artists are probably familiar with this painting. But if we look at the text box beside it, this is what these are 3 different examples of automatically generated alt text. Mary, do you want to read these for me so they get exactly what these say?
Absolutely. So one says a painting of a person. Super helpful. This is my absolute favorite. And y'all, we did not make this up, I promise. Maybe an image of one person and a strawberry.
That probably came from Facebook, just FYI.
I've looked at that so many times to figure out where in the world is the strawberry. Like, I don't even understand where that might have come from.
I have no idea.
Yeah. The next one is, and this is how a screen reader would read it. Mona _Lisa, _ by _Leonardo _ Vinci, _ from _ C2RMF _retouch.jpg.
And what has happened here is this is the file name. And so because the alt attribute on the website was not filled in, it decided to use the file name as the auto-generated alt text. Now imagine being a screen reader user and scrolling a website or a social media platform, because I know for a fact one of those came from a social media platform, and encountering this. Not super helpful, any of these. And the third one kind of makes me want to tear my hair. Also, I'm really, really, with that second one, wanting to go ask somebody where the heck the strawberry is. I'm totally with Mary on that. Where's the strawberry? Yeah. So this is why we probably don't want to use automatically generated alt text, because it doesn't always, it's not helpful. And to go even deeper, it doesn't always get it right. I've seen situations where it calls a dog a cat. I am a little bit short. I'm short, so I'm about 5.5 feet. And inevitably, the auto-generated alt text for any images of me says maybe an image of child, because that's what it thinks it sees. So never, ever helpful. All right, decorative versus essential images. This one is a lot of fun to really think about because it requires a little bit of critical thinking. So when we are creating documents, there are images that we use to visually just kind of draw the eye or to separate the contents of a document, things like that. And then there are images that we put into a document because they mean something. And so these images that we use just for visual elements, maybe the images for the bullet points in a list, the images to separate a document, these are what's called decorative images, and a screen reader doesn't need to see these. So these don't need alt text. So in most of your Microsoft products or in PDFs, you have the ability to mark these images as decorative. In HTML, what you do is you use that alt tag that we talked about and you just leave it blank. But when it comes to these larger images, graphics, photographs, things like that. This is at the discretion of you as the author of your content to determine what is essential and what is non-essential. Do not ever let your web developer, your communications firm, whomever, tell you what is a decorative image and what is not. That is always for you, the content creator, to decide. And so let's look at some images here. So there are 3 images on this slide. I am going to do a little bit of a bad accessibility practice and not describe these images at the moment. But let's do some audience participation. And does anybody want to think about which of these images might be decorative and which of these might be essential? And feel free to come off mute, toss it in the Q and in the chat, however you want to do this. No?
No. It says the chat function is disabled.
Oh, is it completely disabled, Mary? Okay.
Oh, well, come off mute if you don't mind.
Yeah, if you're willing to come off mute, please come off mute.
Yeah.
Mary, this is Ebony.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you, Ebony. Hi.
Thanks. Hi, Sarah. I would say the first picture, did you say which one was the most decorative?
Which one? So which of these 3 would be decorative images and which of these would be essential images? So which of these would you
explain
give
the
all?
difference between what
Yeah,
was decorative versus essential?
absolutely. So which of these 3 images would give meaning to your website or your document versus which of these 3 would be just used as icons, right? As something to maybe visually
So
get
the
somebody's
first
attention.
picture for me would be the most essential.
Absolutely. Yep. 110% agree with you, Ebony. And then these other 2 would be really cool icons, right? To put maybe if you have a knitting class or if you have a 3D movie that you're showing. But you would not necessarily have to put alt text on these. You could mark them decorative and have them basically not show up for a screen reader because the screen reader user does not need to see those other 2 images. All right, so most Microsoft products with alt text, and what you're going to see here, give me just a second. What you're going to see here are just some instructions on how to add alt text to the image. So in the current version of Word, if you right-click the image, there is a button to edit the alt text, and you will type your alt text, your title and your description in. In older versions of Word, there is a format picture menu or icon. And if you click that, you will be able to add alt text from that menu. All right, accessible document structure. So let's talk first about headings and how to use headings and why we use headings. So headings in documents are used for a couple of different reasons. Number 1 is because screen readers have the ability in certain screen readers to pull up just a list of headings or links on a given document or on a given web page. So it helps to utilize those accessible headings and links. Number 2, for people with cognitive disabilities, it makes it easier to kind of keep their place in the documents, to figure out what they're reading about, what they're looking for. And then for non-disabled people, some of us just think that way. And a well-organized document is easier to track. It's easier to find what you're looking for. It gives you kind of a better use of white space as well, because your heading fonts, you know, allow for that separation between body copy and the document heading. But there is a correct way to use headings that we call heading hierarchy. So let's think about a large textbook. And so this large textbook has lots of different chapters and sections. So we have a heading level 1. That heading level 1 is always going to be, in this example, the title of the textbook, or it's going to be the title of your large document or web page. Then we have chapters, right? So chapter 1 in our hypothetical textbook is going to be a heading level 2, as are all of the big chapter titles. But let's say that chapter 2 has section 1 and 2. So section 1 and 2 are heading level 3. And then let's say that section 1 is also divided into sections 1 and 2. That section 1 and 2 are heading level 3. Or no, heading level 8, my brain just died. Heading level 4. Do we need a second to process that? Because I apparently need a second to say it.
Well, what I was going to say is, y'all, if this is like, what? We've got a Word document. I'm going to show you. We're going to do it together in just a little bit. So just kind of have this in your head, like, oh, okay, so I need to structure my document like, you know, book chapters. Okay, cool. And then I think when I show you, it'll make more sense.
Yes, because I fully acknowledge that that is a lot to process. So just hold on with me. And then Mary will show you this, but adding headings in Word. So there is a styles pane in Microsoft Word where we can add these heading styles. And it's really, really important that we use that styles pane, because if you just change your font color and your type, so like a bold type, and your font size, it is not going to turn it into a navigable heading. So it is really, really important to make sure that you are using that styles pane. And like I said, we will go over that in just a second, so bear with me.
And I just want to add in, Sarah, and just sort of validate, potentially for a lot of folks, I had no idea the purpose of the styles pane. Like literally, I've been building documents for I don't even know how long, never used the styles pane, never had an idea that it was a thing. So if you are like me, we're at the stage in our lives where now we know better and we do better, right? So we can just do that and we're going forward. So if you are like, I've literally never seen that even before, it's cool. It's okay. We're here to learn.
And I'm going to validate Mary's validation even further and tell you that as the blind girl in the room who navigates with this stuff and has used it her entire life, I use keyboard shortcuts to do all this stuff. So when somebody said styles pane to me for the first time, I went, huh? What are you talking about? How do I use that thing? What is it? So you are not alone. Even the accessibility expert in the room was like, what are you talking about?
All right, I kicked us the link, Sarah.
Yes. All right. So let's do a little example here before we talk about links. So imagine you're on a web page and you can, all this web page has are a bunch of links, okay? And all of these links say, click here. What are you going to do? Anybody want to come off mute and tell me what you're going to do? Okay.
Well, I'll say this, Sarah. I am not going to do anything because I will be able to use the rest of the information to figure out excuse me, where each link goes. So that's kind of one of those things when we're thinking about that if I am using my site to navigate a page, just click here, click here, click here, it's not going to prevent me from figuring out where I'm going.
But
Sarah,
here,
tell them what happens if you go down a web page where everything says click here, click here,
so
click here.
you overthought my hypothetical, my friend.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Because in my hypothetical, there was no more information. You got ahead of me.
Oops.
In the best way. In the best way. So Mary knows
We're here for your entertainment today,
we
folks.
are, we are. Mary knows this trick, and that's why she overthought it, because she knew where I was going. But in the web page that Mary just hypothetically told us about, where there is information, you as sighted folks are gonna be fine, because you're gonna know where that information will lead you, hopefully. Hopefully they have been descriptive enough to tell you that. I, as a blind person who have just hit, my 0 key on the numpad and F7 to pull up my list of links on the web page and see 5,000,004 click here links, I'm gonna run away as fast as I can, because I don't know where I'm going. And it's like getting the worst spam email ever, where you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know what information is going to be required of you. You don't actually know where here is. And so you're not going to click on anything, and you're going to close that sucker as quickly as you possibly can. And so that's why we talk about what's called meaningful link text. And so what that meaningful link text is maybe you are advertising a class and you are linking out to that class. So the link needs to say painting class, right? Not click here, or learn more about our painting classes. Or you are linking out to a performance program. Maybe it says, click to read our 2024 spring concert program. Being very descriptive of what this is that I am opening and what I should expect to find there, because otherwise I'm just not going to engage with it as a screen reader user.
Sarah, if I can hop in, I put some examples in here, and I don't know that because I did that kind of just before we got started, but one of the things that's been a little bit of not a challenge, but I just had to sort of change the way I'm thinking, is if I'm, linking a document like, here's the report that I sent you. I don't always have to say here, right? I don't always have to say, and like Sarah just said, click to register. If we do that, we might be tempted to make click where they go, right? So I put in a couple of examples, and I will tell you, every morning my routine is get everybody ready for school, sit in the living room, drink my cup of coffee, and read the news. And I read the news on my phone, and I use my news app. And I noticed something the other day. News articles are fantastic about the way that they link things, because they write their story, and then they're like, I can't even give you an example of what I was reading the other day. It was an article about runners. And, they were like, fast runners, and it just had fast runners was the link. So if you're looking for examples, that's a really great place to find some where you never say here, you don't say click, you don't see that in there, right? So my examples here, you can learn more about our programs by visiting our programs offering page. That's your link. Where am I sending you?
Programs offering page.
I mean, you could, I guess in theory, make the learn more about our programs as your whole thing. Purchase tickets and join us for a show. Purchase tickets is your link. So really think about, how can you make it meaningful? So if a person is only hearing the link, do they know where they're going? If you need to keep here and there, that's fine. But I guess I have a feeling when you start getting creative with it and you start thinking about meaningful links, you realize you don't need here. You don't need click. You can do it in other ways. So again, check news articles as some good examples on how to do that.
is Amanda from Charleston Literary Festival, and I want to thank you for this, for these examples on links. I know in the corporate communications world, we would never ever say click here, but sometimes we're worried about our readers not knowing that they can click something that is blue and underlined and hyperlinked. I don't necessarily see that as a problem. Do you? Are we just not expecting that much from our audience?
So I'm
Well,
glad that you said
Sarah,
that.
go ahead.
Especially, I come from a communications background too. So I'm glad that you kind of brought this up because I've heard some of this too. I think that in some ways there is some validation to acknowledging that thought process in the disability world, because sometimes, for example, when we're talking and thinking about plain language, maybe we do want to articulate that, the clicking, and not assume, but we don't have to. And then the other thing is that I personally, now, okay, let me disclaim, I'm about to make a Sara Massengale's personal opinion statement and not a best practice statement. Okay. So I, as a screen reader user, actually get turned off by the word click because I do not click. I do not use a mouse.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I prefer, if we're gonna have to use the click type rhetoric, I prefer visit or join or any of those like more inclusive, not mouse required words, because I'm a keyboard user, and you know, keyboard use is not exclusive to screen readers. I know folks with many disabilities who are keyboard only users. So there's my little diatribe on that, if that's
Thank
helpful.
you. That really helps. It's more than just a style thing. So I'm glad to learn about the functionality.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll add to that. Again, you don't have to eliminate, you know, like purchase tickets here, for example, and all three of those could be the meaningful link. I will say, you know, that our website specifically, and we serve a tremendous disability community, a large number of our consumers, especially for some of our programming, are folks with cognitive disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and meaningful links is it's just part of our natural practice. And, you know, I think we've consistently seen across the board that accessing links and information for a wide variety of users, I think specifically, again, I can say from our website, happens well. But again, I think you don't have to eliminate that. If you'd like to keep that in, then go ahead, just add to it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
So how do we put accessible links?
Okay. Hold on just a second. Okay. Mary, do I still have y'all okay? My computer did something odd. Okay.
Yep.
So
You're here. We got you.
putting links in Word. I'm going to tell you the easiest way to do this, in my personal opinion, on both Mac and PC. And then we'll talk about the mousy way to do it. So on a Mac, in a Word document, in a PowerPoint, it is Command K that will bring up the insert hyperlink dialog. And you will see the box to put in the text, and you will see the box to put in the URL. And the rule is always put in the text before you put in the URL, I've discovered, because otherwise it will turn the URL into the text. But you put in the text, you put in the URL, and then you click OK. It's Control K on the PC. We'll do the same thing. And then in the top ribbons, in the ribbons at the top of Microsoft Word with the mouse, there is a button that says Add Hyperlink, and you just click and insert all of the same information. Tables. yay tables. And you will see why I say yay tables in my best sarcastic voice when we remediate. But tables are tricky. They are not inaccessible, but they are tricky. So when we talk about tables, there are certain things we have to remember. Number one is that all tables have to be put in Microsoft products with the insert table function. No draw table, no using Paint or Word Art or all of the fun things we can use to insert tables must be done with the insert table function. And then the other thing is there is a checkbox within this dialog when we pull up the insert table dialog that says allow header rows across pages. That must be checked. We must have a header row. And then let's understand a little bit about how screen readers read. So screen readers read across the row, not down a column. So screen readers are going to read from left to right. So it makes the most sense if you can organize your tables with the each column basically starting on a different, I'm not explaining this well. Mary, help me explain this very visual concept.
No, I think you're doing fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, keep going.
Okay. So basically allowing the different rows to start, the different columns to start across the row. So column 1 will start in the first square of the row. Column 2 will start in the second square of the row, so on and so forth, so that the screen reader can easily interpret the data. Also remember that tables are for data. That's another one of those, if you take away nothing from this presentation, please take that away. Tables are not for layouts. Tables are not for document separation. Tables are for data. Otherwise, they create a little bit of an accessibility nightmare. I mean, we'll look a little bit more at some of that. And then Mary, do you want to talk about colors and fonts and imposter letters for me?
Yep. And I'm going to go through these real fast. I want to make sure we have time to get through your documents. Colors and font. So we've got an example here. It's a little blurry, but I think it gives you a good example. And there is a link in the resources for how you can check your color contrast. And I'm actually going to show you that also, just so you have a real quick, easy way to do that. But basically, we want high contrast. And we want to avoid serif fonts. Anything with feet. We don't want feet. So here's some examples on here. Standard, widely available, Tahoma, Calibri, Helvetica, Arial are those that that work well. And imposter letters, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of imposter letters, but those are the ones where everything looks the same. You can see in Gill Sans, the capital I, the L, and the number 1 all look exactly the same. And so while a screen reader will differentiate that, a person who's low vision may not, a person who has dyslexia may not. So, you know, being mindful about, again, we're talking about broad accessibility. Our goal today is to not just make sure that you can produce things that folks who use screen readers can access, but that literally everybody can access. We want to help make sure that your content is available to the widest audience possible. So imposter letters can be a big thing that can trip folks up. All right, Sara.
Okay. So
Accessibility
thank you,
checker?
Mary. Yep, accessibility checker. We are I'm going to kind of fly through this last little bit because a lot of this is stuff that you will see in the remediation section. So the accessibility checker, what I'm going to say about the accessibility checker is that all Microsoft products have an accessibility checker built in. It is a computer program. It is notorious for false negatives and false positives, but it is an excellent baseline. Just remember that it cannot check color contrast for you, and we will show you what can.
And I'm going to
let's-
add to this,
Yes.
just because your accessibility checker said that everything was good, doesn't always mean everything's good. So just know that. A lot of times folks will be like, but the accessibility checker. Well, it doesn't catch everything. So just kind of have that in the back of your head. It's better than nothing, but
It doesn't catch everything. Exactly. All right. So considerations for accessible PDFs. I think most of us know what a PDF is. It stands for portable document format. It is a very nice way of kind of preserving your intellectual property. So as far as when you're posting documents on websites, things like that. And then scan versus created PDFs. You're going to see an example of this in a minute. But if your PDF is a scan and has been, brought in from your printer or copier or has been scanned from something else, just know that it is not going to be accessible. And I will show you what that sounds like, or Mary will show you what that sounds like in a minute. Creating accessible PDFs from Microsoft Word. Basically, if you implement your document structure correctly, you will come out with a pretty much 95% accessible PDF. There are issues that sometimes you have to fix, but most of the time it is accessible. The importance of Adobe Acrobat Pro. Essentially, the other free versions of Adobe do not have all the accessibility features built in. So making sure that you do have access to Adobe Pro, which I believe as nonprofits, there is a resource out there called TechSoup, TechSoup, where you can get it for either free or a discounted price point. The Adobe Accessibility Checker, same rules as the Microsoft Accessibility Checker. Just because it says it's good, oh, trust me, it might not be. And again, it can't check your color contrast. You have another program that will do that. It can't check reading order. You will learn what that is in a minute. So just remember, this is a baseline. Here are some pictures of the Adobe Accessibility Checker. And then I think we've gone over and over and over why we build our content in Microsoft products. Accessibility in InDesign. It exists. It is very, very difficult, but accessible InDesign can be done. Accessibility in Canva. I am so excited that we got to update this slide today, because it used to say essentially don't do it. Now it gets to say Canva is building in some really, really nice accessibility features. And we actually have an example of a PDF that Mary exported from Canva, did not open, and sent to me for testing, that came back 95% accessible. And I will admit to having done a happy dance. So that is just really exciting for us to get to share with you. And then you do have a few resource slides here. So I know I flew through that quickly, but I really want us to get to remediation.
And I'll make sure that everybody has all the slides so you can get all the resources. But here's some of the things like this color contrast checker. Y'all will be able to access all of those. Okay, I'm going to put up our questions guide. Do we have questions before we go into some screen shared document fun?
Do you have resources on creating accessible forms, or is that even sort of possible in Adobe products?
Oh,
It is possible.
it is. I
can
just did it.
be very time consuming. Let me add some resources on that to this slide deck. And by the time y'all get it, there will be resources.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And I'll see if I can't, if we can get to that. See if I can kind of give you an idea.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears. I'm going to stop my screen share. And
I'm also going to give you a little disclaimer while Mary stops one screen share and starts another. That you are about to hear a screen reader. It sounds like a robot, if that is in any way upsetting or triggering for anybody. And it may be overwhelming for the first couple seconds. So Mary, if you want to share your sound too.
Screen sharing meeting controls. You have
Okay.
started screen share. Press F6 to switch between open Zoom windows. Share preview WND. Screen sharing meeting control. HWH Hampton Park poster.pdf Adobe Acrobat Pro 64-bit. To move to an item, press the arrow keys. HWH Hampton Park poster.pdf Adobe Acrobat Pro 64-bit. Document. Alert. Document downloading dialog. This document may be a scanned image, which makes it difficult or impossible for JAWS or Fusion to read without first scanning the document with OCR. Would you like JAWS to OCR the document now? Yes button. To activate, press space bar. Alt plus Y. No button. Space. Document. Page has no links. Alert. Document downloading. Downloading.
So they've changed so Mary is using JAWS for Windows, which is probably the most common screen reader for blind folks. And I'm noticing that they have changed the alert since I last used this sort of PDF in JAWS. So Mary, let JAWS voice that document again.
Recycle bin.3s.
Y'all, hang on. Let me first say, I forgot to say this. I really want to extend a huge thanks to Megan Mims and Finley West from Heal with Hearts for sending us some docs that we could use to show. So a big shout out to y'all first for that, because they very much
for being brave and letting us do this.
Yes. Okay, let me.
Alert. Document downloading.
I don't know why it's telling me that, Sarah. Y'all, I'm also still not an expert with my JAWS.
Recycle bin.3s.
So that is the new equivalent to alert document unavailable or alert empty document, apparently.
Recycle bin.3s.
That is not.
Bin.3s. Alert. Document downloading.
Yeah.
Alert. Document downloading.
So you notice what you're hearing is alert document downloading. Now, when I started using JAWS back in the 90s, the alert was empty document or document unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
You also heard, as Mary was working with it, that this document is a scanned image and JAWS may not be able to read it without OCR. Optical character recognition is what OCR stands for. So basically what JAWS is telling Mary is, hey, this was scanned from something. I don't know what to do with it. And that's because it's looking for something called searchable text, because that's what a screen reader has to interpret. And we could go through and we could try to OCR it. Now, I suspect that this is a poster where the OCR would have to try and interpret the graphics and try to interpret things that we shouldn't really let computers try to interpret and make accessible by themselves. So we're not going to do that, because what we're going to end up with is a jumbled mess. But we wanted to show you this to show you why using a scanned PDF isn't going to work for a screen reader user. So Meg, Finley, thank you for letting us kind of use this to go, yeah, not quite gonna work. So let's look at a different sort of PDF.
All right, I'm gonna open up the other one for Meg, because they sent us two. And the other one we're going to use to talk you through kind of a couple things. I want to come back to this image because I think this is a great one for us to talk a little bit about color contrast, overlapping images where, again, we're not talking about screen reader, but we're talking about maybe folks who are low vision or maybe someone with a cognitive or intellectual disability who's trying to figure out where they look. So we're going to come back to that, but I'm going to hop over to the Harmony Balance Unity page.
AV tabs container view document.
And I want to talk about something else before Mary lets you hear Jaws read this. So the title of this document is Harmony Balance Unity. And what this is this is a calendar of all the really cool events that Heal with Hearts is doing. So one of the things that we want to talk about is document titles. So I have a ton of documents and folders within folders on my computer and keep a ton of documents in my downloads folder at any given time. If I, as a screen reader user, stumble across a document that's called, Harmony Balance Unity, not able to see the document preview or thumbnail, I'm not necessarily going to be sure what that is. And so if I'm looking, because I know I have this really cool calendar of events from Heal with Hearts, that's not a title I'm going to be looking for. So one of the first things that we want to talk about with this is to be sure that we are using document titles that are descriptive and are indicative of what this document's actually going to do for us.
Okay, let's hop into this document. Let me
Task switching. JAWS professional. Arts.
Sorry,
My
I'll have
mail.
to- Ooh, I got a lot of windows
Zoom.
open.
Harmony/Balance/Unity Adobe Acrobat Pro 64-bit. Harmony/Balance/Unity Adobe Acrobat Pro 64-bit. Document. Recycle bin.3s. Recycle bin.3s.
What is it? Why is it telling me?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Document.
Close that other document.
AV tabs container view document. For graphic.
Here we go. Okay,
we go.
now we're in it. All right, so I'm hoping that y'all can see the red square around the dock. So that is how I can kind of track where JAWS is going. So the first thing it told me, graphic. And so it's telling me their beautiful feathered heart music symbol logo. But I don't know what that is.
Heading level 1 Heal with Hearts.
So I've got a heading level 1, which if y'all recall, that's the chapter of our book, right?
Heading level 2 Calendar of Events.
But really, the heading level 1 for this is Heal with Hearts calendar of events, because that's the whole thing. That's what I'm there for. All right, let's keep going.
Hearts April 18 Part in Writing Class St. Julian Divine Community Center at 1 Cooper Street every Thursday in April and May 3:30–4:30 p.m. to register, please. Email us, healworks@gmail.com. April 23rd Drumming with Eric every Tuesday in April and May 3 o'clock. 4 p.m. St. Julian Divine Center April 25th Art and Writing St. Julian Divine 3:30–4:30 p.m. April 27th Drumming and Art at the Kids Garden 1 p.m. South Windermere Center Spring Stroll Event April 28th Drumming at Hampton Park W. Eric 3 o'clock 4 p.m. May 1st Music with Gavin and Patrick W. Carolina Studios 3:30 p.m. St. Julian.
Woo! So visually, y'all can see that this is laid out very pretty, right? Like I can see that the first event is in blue. I know exactly that's one separate event. The next one is in red. Got it. I can see every Tuesday is in caps. I can see the time. But if you just heard that, like JAWS read it, would you know all those things?
Actually, if somebody is willing to be vulnerable with us a second, I would actually be curious if anybody wants to share their first reaction to hearing JAWS read it like that.
I am terrified.
Yes. I am an experienced screen reader user and I'm still terrified when JAWS reads it.
Don't want to go to that event.
Navigate press up or down arrow.
And
Yes.
Mary, is it possible to slow JAWS down? Because
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
How about
good.
let me do that a little bit? I slowed
Leaving
it
menu.
down a lot.
JAWS
Sorry, y'all gonna
professional.
have to hear
JAWS
that for a second.
professional. Audio now muted. Menu. Option
So
menu. B. Leaving menus. Voice adjustment dialog.
let
Voice.
me
12%. 13%.
about right there.
Professional. Audio now unmuted.
Oh, that hurts. Okay.
Screen sharing meeting controls.
All right.
Leave
So
menu.
let me give you guys some perspective too.
Harmony /
So Mary, you started at what, 180? Mary?
Probably. Yeah. I listen to audiobooks very, very fast. So this was a natural for me to have my jaws sped up too.
So Mary started at 180. I typically go about 180 myself. I go slower when I'm using my Mac with VoiceOver because VoiceOver is closer to human speech. And so what you heard was actually jaws slowed down considerably. Screen reader users, I have known screen reader users who take their jaws up to 200, and that is how they read. So Mary now has it slowed down to about 13%. I'm going to warn you that this might be even more terrifying.
List end. Thank you to our community partners. Bullet. List of 1 items. Harmony Balance Unity 1.pdf. 4 graphic. Heading Level 1 Heal with Hearts. Heading Level 2 Calendar of Events. Hearts April 18 Part in Writing Class St. Julian Divine Community Center at 1 Cooper Street every Thursday in April and May 3:30–4:30 p.m. To register, please. Email us, healworks@gmail.com. April 23rd Drumming with Eric every Tuesday in April and May 3 o'clock. 4 p.m. St. Julian Divine Center April 25th Art and Writing St. Julian Divine 3:30–4:30 p.m. April 27th Drumming and Art at the Kids Garden 1 p.m. South Windermere.
I think one of the things that you are probably also noticing, don't look necessarily where the red rectangle as it is right now goes, because sometimes that will trick you. But what you are probably hearing is that some of these lines, because of the way they're broken up, when we did the very first one, it did hearts. And for some reason, Adobe, and what I did is when Megan Finley sent me this, I just opened it right up in Adobe and just looked at it. This is how it came tagged, right? So this was no remediation on our part. And for whatever reason, Adobe decided that hearts needed to be down here with April 18th. And so it read it all together. And then it broke it up. And I think you did please email us. And so it breaks it up in all kinds of weird and wacky ways, which again is another reason why if we build with accessibility in mind, that will be, will eliminate some of those difficulties. Yeah, okay. Do y'all want to you want me to show you a couple more things on this PDF, or do we want to get into what do we do?
I would like to do some of the non-screen reader accessibility things real quick with these 2 PDFs. Mary, you were talking about the overlapping images.
Harmony / balance.
All right, Jaws is off. All right, where you want me to go?
So let's go back to that image only PDF. And if you want to talk about overlapping images and color contrast and things.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So first thing here, and I'm just gonna make sure y'all can see my whole screen because we're going to open up a couple different things. So this is a beautiful flyer. I love it. I love the colors. I love the feel. I love the logo. But one of the things that I noticed is, and I don't know if y'all can see my cursor, but heal with hearts, the H, the E, and the A overlap the logo, and presents overlaps the logo just a smidge, and there's not a box behind it. Like if you see on Hampton Park, we've got a green box around it. So those pop out. Heal with hearts, if someone who needs really high contrast, has low vision, again, perhaps a person who has dyslexia, is going to be really difficult to find those words outside of that logo. So when you're designing, think about any of those overlapping elements. And when you cannot have those, that is ideal, or you put them in sort of a box like this. All right. The next thing we want to do is we want to look at contrast. I think there's some really great contrast samples here. If you think back to that box I showed you, but I think others are going to give us a hard time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot of a couple of different areas, and we're going to do this one right here. And if y'all cannot see my screenshots happening, please let me know. I have my whole window open, so hopefully you can see everything I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to the Adobe Color Contrast Analyzer. This is in your resources list. And I'm going to go find my screenshot. Here it is. So I'm just going to open it up. I'm going to drag it in there. And you can see down here, I've got text color and background color. I need to make sure that I've got those right. Okay, text color is here. Background color. And the text color really on this one is white. The pink is there. It kind of pops up, but let's test this first. All right, so we've got our contrast ratio is 1.37 to 1. And, whether you're like, I don't even know what that needs to be. It needs to be 1 to 5. But if you don't remember that, you can go down here and you can just see, oh no, I've got a fail. For 17-point font and below, oh gosh, I've got a fail if it's 18 point. Oh gosh, I've got a fail for graphics too. So no matter how I were to use this white on blue, it's not going to work. Let's see if it makes a difference for that pink. Okay, we'll check in text and background, import. All right, so we're still not flying. Okay, so whether we do white or pink, that does not give us enough contrast to be accessible. So let's go back over here and we already kind of looked at the same pink. We've got that. So I know that near Ashley and Moultrie Streets is not going to work. Let's do this, the Arts Commission logo, and see if that works on this blue background. So same thing, I'm going to take a screenshot of a piece of art, go back to my contrast checker, find it and drag and drop that sucker in there. And you can see it got this backwards because my background color is the blue, my text color is the green. And sometimes it gets a little finicky trying to get it right there. Okay, so we've got a fail on that one. We're at 2.6 to 1. And again, if you haven't committed those numbers to memory, you come down here and it just tells you a fail. Let's see if we were to darken that green a little bit. Okay, so we got it darker, and we can see that if it's small font, still not going to pass. But if it's bigger or if it's an icon, we're good. So sometimes it kind of depends on how you're using a color. Do y'all want me to keep going on contrast checks? How you feeling about that?
Yes, please. That's helpful.
Okay. All right, let's do this red one. Oops. It's helpful if I actually take a screenshot of it. All right, and again, we got to swap it out. That's our text color and our background color. And see, that's one of those where that surprised me. So that did not pass, and that didn't pass no matter how big our font is. So sometimes that's why, I don't rely on my own idea. I'm going to go double check it. Let's look at this. Let's look at this darker green. Okay, we already kind of ran those through, but let's just see if this green. I feel like sometimes you got to get it right in there. The only bad thing about doing a screen grab is sometimes you can't quite, it'll pick up some of the lighter colors. Okay, so we're still a fail on that one. So what that tells me is probably none of our fonts, none of our colors and contrasts here are going to pass an accessibility check.
Mhm.
And so that might be one of the simplest things to do that for an image like this would be to change our background color, right? If we don't want to change our whole font, let's change our background color. Let's take it 2 shades lighter, and then go back and recheck. So, okay.
Being mindful of time, let's show them the Canva PDF.
Okay. Yep. That's where I was headed. Perfect.
Cool.
All right. So what I did is I took this document. I said, okay, let me back up a little bit. One thing I wanted to be able to do today is to talk with y'all about, okay, you have this document, someone created it for you, whatever. It's a historical document. Y'all love it. You want to keep using it, whatever. Can you make it accessible? Can you remediate it? That's the term we use, remediation. I want to show you really quick how hard it is to remediate a document. Not that it cannot be done, but it is real hard. So the first thing I'm going to do, whenever I get a PDF, the first thing I do is I open up, and if you have the new version of Adobe, everything is switched sides. This column over here with all the accessibility stuff used to be on the left. The tag. I open up that tags tree. And this is what I see. And if y'all are like, whoa, Nellie, what in the world is all this stuff? Let's just click through because it shows us what it is. So this is our main document. It's not labeled. If I were going to remediate, I would go through, I would right click, I would do properties. Yeah, there we go. See, sometimes Adobe's like, no, I won't do what you said. Well, it's just not going to let me do anything, is it? Let's see.
And this is part of why remediation is hard.
Okay. Oh, I did go and do a couple things to this. So the figure,
I don't know that
I
you
right
saved
clicked
it.
properties. What in the world? Why is it not showing any of my properties, y'all?
Close Adobe and reopen it.
There we
Adobe.
go. Okay.
There, okay.
It did it. So I would want to title this. I'm going to do Heal with Hearts calendar of events. Okay. And then I've got this figure. I can see that. And I can see my box that popped up and told me, oh, that's our beautiful logo. And remember when Screen Reader went through it, it just said figure, right? So I need to go to the properties of that. It's a figure. That's the right type. I'm going to do Heal with Hearts logo. And then I'm going to do alt text for that. And Megan Finley, I hope I don't butcher this, but I'm going to do blues and greens, peacock style feather with red heart in the center and a music note logo for Heal with, not health, Heal with Hearts. There is no spell check for your alt text, so just keep that in mind. And then I'm going to close it. So y'all can see my Heal with Hearts. See how the box is around hearts? We can already tell it's separated it. It's wacky. But one of the big things that we wanted to try to do is see if we could get this list to read a little bit more clear with the screen reader. And y'all, I spent, I don't know how long, a good hour.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna swap the interpreters real quick. Sorry, doing 2 things at one time. Thank you, Amanda. I spent probably an hour trying to make this list accessible. You can add new tags. you know, determining that it was a list. And there's a lot of resources out there. And if this is something y'all really want to know, let me know and we can show you a little bit more how to do this. I just kind of
Yes.
thought I don't necessarily want to spend all of our time trying to make a PDF accessible when it's so hard. And there are hours and hours and hours of YouTube videos out there that could probably teach you much better than I could. Those are my resource. What we wanted to help you figure out how to do is make it as accessible as possible before you get it to this point. So, all right, I'm just going to stop with that. I'm going to flip us over to Canva, because what I tried to do is sort of take this same concept of like a calendar of events and some logos to thank partners, build it in Canva for you real quick, and show you how the accessibility features are there and what you can do. So I put in, I added a logo, and I did that, you know, just through my uploads feature, stuck that thing in there, and I right-clicked and I did alt text right in Canva. This is not a feature that they used to have. All right, then I put my accessibility show, and I did that by going to text. And I don't know if y'all have noticed, we've got a heading, a subheading, and a little body of text. Use those. If it is your heading, use your heading text. If it's not, then don't use that. You know, you can go, if you're familiar with Canva, you can change your font any way you want to. But use these as your text styles to really determine, to make it so that when you export it, your heading structure is already appropriately there. Something else I did is, again, I'm a visual person. I like images. I don't want to look at something that just has words. So I put this little, because this is Mary and Sarah's accessibility show. I put this little spotlight here. But what I did is I right-clicked that. I went to alternative text, and this is something, this is not an essential element, right? This is a decorative image. This does not give any important information about this document. So I went ahead and marked it as decorative. Okay. Then for my table, because that's really a simple way to do that, you could take that information and put it as a table, or you could do a bulleted list. But I went to my elements and I just found a table. And I put it in there, and it kept my header rows. Again, all these accessibility features are in Canva now, and it works so well. And then I just put my information in. I made sure I went across. Okay. I put a little body of text down. No, I did a subheading down here. And then I put this other little non-essential element, this little email thing, because again, I like to have stuff to look at. But I left that one as an email icon. But then thinking, no, that's not really important. We're just going to mark that guy as decorative too. So our next page, I wanted to make sure that we had these sponsors in here, because that's really important, right? So I did kind of the same thing. I put our logo in there. I've got our link, which you can see I added as a link. I went ahead and linked it in Canva. I put logos in here. I added alt text for each one of those. And then when Sarah and I tested it, I realized that it wasn't that I hadn't done it correctly. It's that I hadn't completed it. So what I want to do is I want to show you how to link a document. So we're going to go ahead in here, and I'm going to put the South Carolina Arts Commission logo here because we are partnering with them in this project. And then I'm going to put Able Access's logo in here. And I'm going to go put my alternative text, let's see, Arts Commission logo. And y'all, I know that we have done these from 3 to 5. Please know if you cannot stay the entire time, we're going to record all this stuff, and it will be available. We'll try to get it up on the website as quickly as we can. I know there's been a delay with those. But I just want to say, I know that typically we've been running about 90 minutes, but we're going to stay and try to get through as much of this as we can. So stay if you can. Able Access logo. Okay. So then I also want to link these guys. And I'm going to do arts.sc.gov. I'm pretty sure is the website. Okay. And then same thing. And then a couple other things. So I've got, another heading that I did here. I've got a subheading here. I added some stuff, and you see this little squiggly line. Again, not an essential element, but I like visually, I'm like, and I'm not a graphic designer. So if any of you are like, this is the ugliest flyer I've ever seen, it's okay. This little squiggly line, I felt like we needed something to break it up. So I also just marked this as decorative, which means when I sent it to Sarah and her screen reader went through, she didn't even know it was there. Not important. The next thing I want to show you is that we have the option. Oh, sorry about that. Of checking for accessibility. So under File, and this is also new, Settings, check Design Accessibility. And again, our accessibility checker is not going to catch everything, but it did our font, and my font 18 points is really the standard accessibility font. I know that's not always going to work for information and stuff, but when you can keep it at 18, keep it at 18. It checked color contrast and it checked alternative text. But I'm looking at this black on pink, and I'm not entirely sure if the contrast there is great. So let's just check it really quick. Same thing. I just keep and that thing is bookmarked. I go there all the time. Drop my file in, double check my background color, and see, it's thinking my text color is orange. It's not, it's black. So sometimes it is tough to find that sweet spot. All right, and I'm at 10.27 to 1. So I can look down here at no matter what size I use, pink on black, I'm golden. The other thing, okay, you do not have to do contrast check on logos. And what else does not need a contrast check, Sarah?
So it's definitely logos, and then non-text elements. So like purely graphical elements, you don't really have to worry about.
So I wouldn't do a contrast check. Let's say I changed this little squiggly do lolly to just a little bit blue. I don't have to check the contrast of that. Simple visual element. Okay, so I want to take us to well, let me stop there. What questions do we have about Canva?
Or just at all? Like what
Yeah.
questions do y'all have?
Do you recommend using Canva because of the new features that it has?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about what other folks are using, Photoshop does not have this easy stuff embedded. We talked to some folks a couple months ago who had spent literal thousands of dollars learning how to build accessible
InDesign
flyers and
products.
things in InDesign. And when they used those accessible features in InDesign and they exported them, they were completely inaccessible. Everything was broken. When they built it in InDesign and didn't put any accessibility features in it and exported it, it was better. Still needed a lot of remediation, but it was a lot better. We don't know of anything else out there that is making things as simple as this. If you have a tool and you want us to help you research accessibility features, we're happy to do that.
I have a question. This is Amanda. With headers, should there only ever be a header number one? Like, should there only ever be one header number one on a document?
Yes,
That should always be your main title. of the document.
exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then there can be multiple of headers 2 and 3. Those other ones, there may be multiple throughout the document depending on what your information is.
Exactly. 2
Yes.
through infinity, you can have multiple of those.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I'm actually, let's open this up in PDF right now and let's just take a look. Okay, let's not open it up in that PDF. Let's open it up in actual PDF. So y'all bear with me for a minute. Okay. So let's look at our tags tree and let's see what it did, because I think that it probably did not keep, it did, sometimes it will give you more than one H1. It did. Okay, so y'all can see my tags tree here. It artifacted this logo. It's not even showing up. It has a figure, and we've got, look, our alt text hung on there. Fantastic. We have our H1, Mary and Sarah's calendar of events. And let me show y'all what I did there, because I think this is important. Instead of adding 2 different, a heading and a subheading, because I really wanted that to be the entire title of my document, I typed it in all there. But you can see calendar of events is a different font size. I just literally manually did it that way, right? So it's all still one header. And that's how I maintained it, visually looking different, but through the screen reader, maintaining that quality of my document title. And then you can see I've got my table here, flipping back to the PDF document. I've got my figure, my email icon, and the properties of that one. So it does not have a little icon next to it. So it is probably, no, it's still there. I can go here. Sorry, I can go to reading order. Nope. We can artifact that. I'll show you how to do that. Our paragraph. So Amanda, you can see here, I have this as just a body of text. And then our second page, we have our H1. Thank you to all of our amazing sponsors. And see, that shouldn't be an H1 because that's the title of the second page, but it's not the title of our document. So I can pretty easily fix that. I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to properties, and I'm literally just going to change it to a heading level 2. And then my heading level 2 doesn't need to be a heading level 2. It just needs to be a P tag paragraph. So I'm just going to change it. Right. And then you can see it's artifacted our little squiggly doodad here. We've got our figure, a couple more P tags. And then it has all of our logos. And again, all of our alt text stayed with us. This one, for some reason, has kind of split itself up, and I'm not really sure why. When we read through with screen reader, though, it didn't notice anything. So sometimes you'll see these funky elements that I'm not sure why Adobe does what it does sometimes, but that's a way that you can make a document pretty accessible, flip it into Adobe, and just manually check things. You also can run your accessibility check by going over here to your all tools, view more, prepare for accessibility is where you now find that, and you can check for accessibility. We're going to do everything, so let's check it. So it's telling us we've got 2 issues. Oh, logical reading order, we need a manual check, and color contrast, because it doesn't do those things. We have a tagged annotations. And I don't know where that is. Let's see, what is it telling us that is?
Check your links. I'm betting it's your links.
I didn't have any links in that one.
The logos.
All right, I'm gonna swap out interpreters. There we go. Okay. So this is an example of what sometimes you just got to do a little exploration. Element 1, it is that link. So element 1, it is not appropriately linked. All right, so I'm going to show in my content panel. Go to my properties. What is my tag? Okay, it's not going to let me do it that way. So go back to my tag tree. Find that. There we go. Accessibility.com. Right click that. And that is actually a link. And then you have to put down here your alternate description for your links. Okay. Someone asked me about forms. Right, it's 4:46. Okay, before I hop away from this Canva flyer, any other questions about?
Real quick, we had a question in the Q&A about asking you if you would go over again where you find the accessibility review function in Canva.
Absolutely. Okay, so I went to, and if you have Canva Pro, it might be in a different place. I haven't messed with Canva Pro in a little bit, but I went to File, Settings, and then check Design Accessibility. And then it popped it right up there for me. Let's do something. Let's just see what it's like when we don't have it. I want y'all to see how easy it is to fix it. Okay, so I removed that alt text. Let's check our accessibility again. Alternative text, one issue. Add alternative text, and there it is. It brought it right back up for me. I can add it.
Now, I am curious, Mary, does Canva have the ability to auto-generate alt text?
Interesting. Suggest for me. NBA Alliance logo is what it came up with, our beautiful quick logo that I made for you and I, that is a circle of hands. It is navy on blue, has M and A, and then 811Y. So this might be an example of a woman in a strawberry.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, so again,
write your own alt text.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. Okay, I don't need to fix that. All right, well, I'm going to hop away from Canva, and I want to show you really quick in Word how to use the styles pane. What I did for this document is I just wanted to do like a quick program that you might print out, or we did a musical piece. So I have got, you can see our styles pane up here. Massengale Reeves University, College of Visual and Performing Arts, and you can see it's not showing all of those. If you click on things, you can see what they are. So Massengale Reeves University is our H1, College of Visual and Performing Arts is our H2. You can also double click on it, click your styles pane, and see here. Sometimes though, you might be like, whatever the default is, like, I really don't want that to be blue, because, you know, if it's small enough, it's not going to be accessible. I really would like for it to be black. I want it bold, and I really want it to be 24 font. Okay, so that's my H1. I want my H2 to be 16 and also black. Well, I'm going to go here and I'm going to apply styles, because I want this to be my new H2. So every time I create an H2, it's going to look like this. Okay, so that means my ensemble name, and all these things are just, you can see no spacing, it's just normal text. Ensemble name is a heading 3, because if I'm thinking about, the structure of my book, I've got my title, I've got my P2, and then my ensemble name and my chapter is actually, that probably should be an H2. This is one of those things, again, where you have to think about the structure of your document. What is the purpose? What are your main themes? Where are you going? Because this might change every time you do this. What is the logical order of your document structure? And Sarah, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm looking at this, and actually, so this is me. This is Sara Massengale's personal opinion statement. Again, I always disclaim those. I would not make ensemble name a heading at all, to be perfectly honest. What I would do is I would just make that normal text. Unless I was going to go beneath it and list out all the individual members of the ensemble, then I might make it a heading.
So that's one of those things where, and you all are privy to a conversation Sarah and I are having, but I'm probably going to bold it. I'm going to have it look different. So if I'm going to have it visually look different, does it need to be differentiated for the screen reader also?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
And so this again, y'all are privy to a conversation that we're having. This is where equity and best practice are sometimes different from practicality. And for practicality reasons, do you remember, Mary, the website we were assessing recently where I put the note that said SM still thinks there are too many headings on this page?
Mm-hmm.
So this would get an SM still thinks there are too many headings on this page, because if you get too many headings, and I'm navigating by headings exclusively, it becomes very cluttered for me as a screen reader user.
Okay. So for the purposes of you all today, and when you're out there, again, thinking about how you're using this document, how are people looking at it? What are the important parts? When I use JAWS, and see, this will be also kind of showing you a little bit different between Sarah and I. When I use JAWS and I skip through headings, I do it just like I would with my eyes. I want to know, what are the bolded things? What are the things that you highlighted? Because that's probably going to tell me where you're going. But again, that's going to be user different. So Sarah, is there a right way and a wrong way to do this with headings?
There is not. There is a best practice, which is just the straight up heading hierarchy that we went over. But there is no set in stone rule that says this should always be a this level heading in the sense of that works exclusively across document types. You as the author have a little bit of freedom here. I will tell you from user experience that the way I use headings. Now, I'm going to say this, and I don't use this to confuse the issue. So if it ends up confusing the issue, feel free to ask and let's talk about it.
I'm smiling, Sarah.
I don't care so much about the heading levels. I am using headings to differentiate the big sections of a page. I am exclusively using headings to show me their section delineations and how each part that has a separate heading is different from the part before it.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, like, that's visually what I'm going to do, right? When I'm going to look at bolded sections or something that's in the center, some of those visual elements. So when you're thinking about and you're setting up your document, whether it's a report, a program like this, if you are centering, bolding, tabbing, if you're using a visual element to highlight this part is separate from this part, then think about how you want to use your styles pane to delineate that. And that very well might be headings. Okay, it is 4:56. Gracious, I feel like we have given y'all a lot of information. Is there anything in the 4 minutes that we have that you came to learn that you didn't get to see, you don't know, you still don't understand, that you would like us to go back through to show you again? You're welcome to hop into this conversation and tell us what else you need.
Mary, this is Amanda again, and feel free others if you have questions, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So when we use the styles pane, you select your heading and then you can change it to look visually however you want. You can change the font, you can change the color, and that won't take away the hierarchy that you've put in place. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Yeah. And you can manually do that. Like, I don't know if I will tell you, it is so much easier to do in Google Docs. So if you build stuff in Google Docs and then you export it as a Word document, and I'm just going to show you really quick, because that part of building using your styles pane is gracious day. Sorry, y'all. Is a lot easier to just like make it look the way you want to. So let's do Sara and Mary present accessibility. Chapter 1, chapter 2. I don't know about y'all. Do you love typing on camera where people get to watch you spell really well? I went to a Montessori school. I'm a terrible speller. I learned how to spell phonetically. All right. So we're going to click this whole thing. I'm going to go up to my styles pane up here. And this is going to be my H1. I want this guy centered. I want it a little bigger. And you can see I click back on here, up here on the right. It's still my heading 1, even though I moved it. I can even change my my font if I right click and actually do it. All right, so chapter 1, section B, section B, section C, section D. Chapter 1 is going to be my H2. Let's go ahead and do all of our H2s. But, I'm like, you know what? No, I don't like that being, I really want it to be bold and I want it to be underlined. So I can go back up here, click my H2, go to this little arrow and go apply to heading 2. Bold, underline. I have to update heading 2 to match. It is not as easy to do that in Word. And you see it went ahead and changed chapter 2, it updated that. So if I do make this one heading 2, chapter 4, I'm turning to heading 2, it's going to make them all look how I want. Word is not as user-friendly in that, Amanda. You can do that. Click in the styles pane. You've got to go here. You have to I don't want to create a style.
I appreciate seeing that, Mary. I'm definitely a Google Doc user convert in the last year. So I know we're out of time, but my last question to you then, I'm seeing heading 1, we only are supposed to have 1. Then when do you use that title designation?
Thank you for saying that, because I was actually going to go there. So 2 things about Google Docs. Number 1 is, so that title designation in Google Docs is actually H1. So you want to use the title designation for the title in Google Docs exclusively. And then heading 1 is actually heading 2. This is where Google Docs is a little strange. Other thing to remember is that sometimes, not always, it's very inconsistent about when it happens. You can do all the pretty things in Google Docs in the world, and then the minute you download it or export it, it will break some of those headings. So just be aware that you might have to go back and fix it.
Thank you for saying that, Sarah. That's great to know. And I know we could go on and on because there's so much to dig into. And I know that this information can feel a little overwhelming at first, but the way you all broke it down is really helpful to me. And I hope that it was helpful to all the folks here, and being able to review this in a recorded content, I think will also be great. And I think that this topic is something that we will continue to dig into over the coming fiscal year as we create some more webinars upcoming. So this does not have to be the, the one and only training. There'll be more that we can dig into. And Able as a whole is always just so wonderful in offering to help look at documents and help answer questions. So know that they are an amazing resource, and definitely the experts that can help us all improve our ability to make accessible communication. So thank you, Mary. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. And thank you all for those of you that have hung on through the end of this webinar. And I hope that you'll join us for our final webinar on June 5th? 5th. Thank you. That will conclude our series for this year. And we're already thinking about topics for next year. So we're excited about what's to come. But thank you all. I hope everyone has a great evening.
Yeah, thanks so much. We appreciate it, everybody. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need us.
Absolutely. Let us know if you need us. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, Alexis and Amanda. Appreciate y'all.